this is like the internal conflict that's going on in my head all the time. Like I say something like, referrals are greater than testimonials. And then I'm like, is that, I don't know. Is that really true? I'm not sure. I don't know about that. Mark. What were you thinking? Did you think of it from this way? It's like, yes, clearly I did. I'm thinking of it from this way right now as I'm arguing with myself. Anyway, it's a joy, so welcome. Hey you, I'm Mark, husband of one, father of three, maker of puns, climber of trees, grower of businesses, pitcher of tents, occasional cutter of cheese, word nerd, and lover of families. Oh no, not yet. No. Oh, here he comes. Where's my oar? Showed that crack and who's boss. At least until like 2 p.m. this afternoon. I think I'll be due for another attack by then. Let's jump into it. Hey, welcome to all of you, bandits and chilies. This episode is called the RTR Method. And this one's going to be a little bit different because this is actually, what the RTR Method is a document that I put together a little while ago. And I haven't talked about it very much. And so it's linked below in the show notes. Honestly, downloading it and reading along with this is not the worst idea because I'm essentially using the document for notes from this. But let's get into it. I don't really want to reveal what the RTR method is or give it much of a preamble because it kind of unfolds itself organically as we go. So picture this, and this should be pretty easy because you will have seen this before and you've probably even lived it yourself. So picture this. Larry has just posted on a Facebook industry group and he feels a bit defeated. He's been working his fingers to the bone, his heart to the soul on his local home service business. Yet he struggles to get customer reviews for his Google profile and social media. He has seen that some of his competition have hundreds of reviews, and he knows of others in the industry group that he's just posted in that have thousands. His post simply reads, "How can I get more Google reviews?" The first like hits a few minutes later, but it isn't accompanied by any comment. Then the first comment arrives. "Break a window or steal their mail. That will certainly get you more reviews." Yeah, good one, Darren. The kind of answers that you will get depends on two key factors. Now, this is really important. This has nothing to do with the RTR method and what that is, and what that does, all of that. It's got nothing to do with it, but this is actually more important anyway. It's like a little side tangent that we're going to go on that's way more important than the subject itself, because acquiring good answers can literally change your life and your business. So the two factors that the kinds of answers that you will get depend on is the questions that you ask and the people that you ask those questions to, right? So the questions themselves and the people that you're directing those questions at. Now, it's really important when you ask a question to actually really think about your question before asking it. Try to dive deeper and attack it from different angles and see if you can sharpen the question. See if you can cut off some of the answers that you already know, some of the things that you've already considered, and reshape the question so that it's pointing in a new direction, or it's pointing towards a path that you already sense is the correct path. And then that way the question itself lends itself to being an illumination of what's already intuitively the right direction for that answer, if that makes sense. Anyway, this is like the best piece of advice that I've ever heard. And it's an oldie but goodie. I don't really see how you can get better advice than this. And just because it's so fundamental, right? Don't ask for advice from someone that you wouldn't trade places with within the specific domain of the advice that you're seeking, right? So someone might have a great business and a terrible marriage. So you can learn from their strengths without imitating their failings, right? But if you just haphazardly ask for advice, you might get someone who's really confident in the answer that they give, but the domain that they're operating in, that you're asking the question about, they're not doing very well in that space. So following the advice that they give is probably not going to get you too far. Anyway, that's that. All right, so let's get into how can you get Google reviews? And we're going to cover some quick tips here, but we're not going to linger on this because the next question is even better. And the next question is, do you want Google reviews, right? That's more important than how do you get them, is do you want them? So how do you get them? Step 1, ask for them. Step 2, make it easy for the customer. And step 3, structure extras into your service to wow your customers. Structure extras. I'm struggling to say that. Anyway, that's fine. So those are the three main things. in the document, I recommend you download it from the show notes because I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it says to aim to structure your review asks into your process at least 6 times. And there's really, rather than getting into the weeds of that, there's a cool did you know bubble, which says, when you remember an event, you're actually just remembering the last time that you remembered that event. So memories that are not recalled to mind deteriorate and are eventually forgotten. By installing a series of review asks into your process, you will strengthen the memory of that request to the customer and increase the likelihood of them actioning it. Asking just one time is a lot like asking 0 times, right? So that's like really the key kind of principal thing going on behind what else is being suggested in this section. Okay, so then, making it easy for the customer, there's a whole bunch of things that you can do there, using NFC stuff, QR codes, having a survey, sending them links, all that kind of stuff. Then structuring extras into your service. I'm still struggling to say that. Structure extras. It seems like a tongue twister to me, into your service to wow your customers. So this could be like performing a small additional service for free, like you build it into the quote, but it's not like sold as part of the job. And so then when you do it, it's an extra that they were not expecting. You can leave them with a free sample, which is a really fantastic way to keep a small part of your business in their home. And as a handy reference, if there's a way that you can incorporate a product that marries up well with your service, and you could maybe give them like a coffee voucher or something like that. Did you know that going 1% above expectations gives outsized results compared to the previous 100% of meeting expectations, right? Now, this is interesting because you, like, just as I'm reading that, you probably do know that, but you don't, this is the power of questions. You don't know that until you're asked a question like, did you know that going 1% above, that 101st% is doing a whole lot more work than the previous 100%, right? So everyone intuitively knows that, but by asking the question, it brings that into focus. Anyway, moving on from that aside, once a customer feels that you have done something extra just for them, their experience is drastically enhanced and they are much more likely to give reviews, referrals, and repeat bookings. Okay. The more important question, do you actually even really want Google reviews? You probably do, but here's the thing. Once you get a certain amount of reviews, I see people talking in industry groups about, like, how do I get more Google reviews? What can I do? La, 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 la. They stress out about this. And it's not that it doesn't matter, but if you're in a market where, let's just say that for your service in your area, most other businesses have like 100 reviews. There's like some that have like none, some that have like 10, some that have 80, and there's a few that have 100. And maybe you're in that zone. You're like in the 80 to 100 zone, or maybe you're in the 150 plus zone, or maybe you're at like 749 5-star Google reviews, right? Well, at what point, sort of similar to the 1% doing a whole lot more work than the previous 100% in that like little question from a moment ago, after a certain point, each new review is doing a lot less work, right? The very first 5-star review is doing the bulk of the work. And then stacking those on, once you're in the sphere of where other businesses are at with their 5-star reviews, then everything beyond that, it's doing some work, but it has diminishing returns, right? Your 750th 5-star Google review is worth less to you than your 150th. It just is, right? And that's okay. You should still want them, right? It's never a bad feeling. It's not a bad thing that you get them. It helps with like Google bumping your local SEO and how you appear in the results, because if you're getting a constant flow of reviews, that shows that, this score of trust that is being sort of voted towards you in this form is current. So it's valuable. But just as a point of comparison, right, the T in RTR stands for testimonials. Now, a lot of people might think that a review and a testimonial are the same thing. Well, no, at least not in the context of how we're going to talk about them here in the RTR method. A review is a star rating, perhaps accompanied by some words, a photo, or even a video of the product, service, or experience. Google, Facebook directory listings, lots of third-party platforms offer review options, but a testimonial is a video of one of your happy customers talking about how amazing your business is, right? Imagine if you had a couple of those. How powerful would that be? Testimonials are just simply greater than reviews. When someone stumbles onto your website or social media, having a testimonial from a real customer relating a real experience is just so much more powerful than just having a written review and star rating. They can see this person. They can pick up on all of their body language and tone. They see that they're imperfect, the video is amateur, and the customer says a lot. It speaks on a much more real and human level than just plain text. It also speaks on a much more powerful level than any video featuring yourself or members of your team extolling the virtues of your own business. Secondly, testimonials are a bigger ask than reviews. So it's a higher bar to entry for the customer than simply tapping 5 stars and typing, great job. A lot of people will be completely uncomfortable with this idea and will refuse to do it, and that's okay. Both of those things are actually put to work for us like some kind of weird martial arts technique on leveraging the disadvantage into an advantage. We'll talk about all of that in the next section, but we just need to lay the groundwork first. But I'm sure that we can start to see the outline of the RTR method here, right, where this is going. And then the third point of comparison between testimonials and reviews is that testimonials require more planning and effort than reviews. So, you need to allow time on the job for the potential of the client saying yes to providing you with a testimonial. You need to have a plan. And if you have a team, they need to be trained on the plan. If any of this idea of like taking a video of a client to get a testimonial from them, if that sounds uncomfortable for you, that's 10 times worse for your team. Like they're going to hate this. So your team will not do this. They will not do this unless there is a clear framework that they understand, that they have practiced and they have bought into. More on that in a bit. But you need to have specific questions and prompts ready to go in order to maximize the success of the testimonial ask. You don't want to have someone say, yeah, I'll do that, and then end up with a poor quality testimonial that won't help your business because you just did not plan it out well. That is such a wasted opportunity. It's a good idea to have a media release signed so that they clearly state that they understand the intent of this video and where it may be used, etc., etc., etc. There's a couple of other dot points in this document around this point. One other thing that I'd like to point out in the difference between testimonials and reviews, kind of on point one of like when someone sees this on your website or something, they see points 2 and 3 as well, like in the background context. Like they understand that this is unique. They're not seeing this on other people's pages, and they understand that a customer, leaving a review, the person watching this on your website or your social media has probably left dozens of 5-star reviews themselves. But have they ever felt so good about a business as to stop and leave them a video testimonial? Like, who does that? So if you can get a few of these, you don't need a ton. If you can get 3, 5, 7, 14 of these, this is going to just look like infinity compared to the 0 that all of the competition around you will have. So again, coming back to the competing on, do I have 157 5-star reviews and the other company has 83 and this other one company has 219 or whatever. You're competing on the same currency. If you switch across to testimonials, when people see that in your marketing presence, then it's game over with regards to reviews. It doesn't matter if you have half as many reviews as the other businesses around. If you have these really epic testimonials are just greater than reviews. Okay, so that's that. Then there's a checklist for effective testimonial asks and the questions to include and all of that. It's a whole thing. I think this is better in written format for that, so I'm going to gloss past that because, I don't see the need to get stuck in the weeds on that. But essentially, the RTR method is an R with a greater than symbol to a T with a greater than symbol to an R, right? So reviews is the third R, and testimonials are greater than reviews, and then referrals are greater than testimonials. So that's what the RTR method is. Referrals beats testimonials, which beats reviews. And why does referrals beat testimonials? We've just discussed how awesome testimonials are, and they are great. And look, you could even argue that they're better than referrals, but in the instant moment, a referral is worth more simply because you get paid. You get an instant job when someone refers you directly to someone else. That's like a real life testimonial. They've told their friend, they've said, hey, Susan, I've just had this done. You should too. This is fantastic. Check these guys out. They did an amazing job and blah, 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 right? So it's like a testimonial to an audience of one that gives you a sale. So the fact that it instantly puts dollars on your calendar, that's why I've ranked that at the top. The argument could be made that having a collection of testimonials over time would overpower that, but for the sake of this, it's called the RTR method. I don't know why I'm arguing with myself on this because I named it, but anyway, this is like the internal conflict that's going on in my head all the time. Like I say something like, referrals are greater than testimonials. And then I'm like, is that, I don't know. Is that really true? I'm not sure. I don't know about that. Mark. What were you thinking? Did you think of it from this way? It's like, yes, clearly I did. I'm thinking of it from this way right now as I'm arguing with myself. Anyway, it's a joy. So welcome. Okay. So referrals, just to lay the groundwork on referrals. Referrals are something that people often think of as just happenstance. You just do a good job and people talk and then you get more work. That's it. Great. And that does happen sometimes, right? But so few people, especially with like really small service businesses, so few people focus on being proactive with referrals and actually asking for referrals and structuring referrals and incentivizing referrals and being really conscious of different channels and means of getting referrals, that it is just leaving huge amounts of money on the table for your business. Just this past week on Wednesday, we're doing the 6-week Frappe framework, and the R in Frappe stands for referrals. That's a whole other thing, but it is the only letter in that acronym, which is a really powerful way of looking at things through like a lens to look at things in your business through, so as to basically find money out of thin air. It's the only letter in that acronym that really does not have a ceiling. Frequency has a ceiling. You cannot get customers to book every day. Even if you got them to book every day because you had like a weird magical business where daily bookings were like the norm for your industry or something, well, you can't get them to book every hour of every day. Right? There is a limit to the frequency that your business can service. There is a limit to how high your price can be, how high your average ticket can be, what expenses you can cut, how good your production rate can be. That's all the other letters, right? But referrals, you can just keep copying and pasting. You can keep copying and pasting different referral channels. There's a whole, it's a thing. So we're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. But the fact that people miss this, the fact that people just think, oh yeah, well, people just talk and I just let them talk. I don't want to get involved in their own personal private conversations. It's none of my business. It's like, it literally is your business. They're talking about your business, or more importantly, because you didn't ask them to, they're not talking about your business. So it's your business. Insert yourself into this, find ways to incentivize this throughout the way that you structure your process, and generate yourself more referrals. You can definitely do that proactively. Okay, so that's that. I'm just going to skip through this document to, again, there's a lot of text, there's some checklisty sort of stuff. One of the main advantages with referrals is that people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So that's why referrals are the easiest prospects to sell, because they have a warm introduction to you from someone that they already know, like, and trust. So when someone refers someone to your business, that relationship, you're like borrowing trust from that relationship. So if Tom referred Wendy, and Wendy is like his cousin, and they've known each other their whole life, Wendy is coming across now to your business, and her connection to your business is now tethered to this lifelong relationship that she's had, right? So you've just built up this huge amount of know, like, and trust out of thin air, just because if it's good enough for Tom, well then, it's probably good enough for me. I know Tom. He's no idiot, right? So you're borrowing the know, like, and trust of their existing relationship and just like claiming that for yourself. That referrals are gold for that reason alone, and there's other reasons. Anyway, okay, so then there's some notes here about like building a good referral system. Yeah, this is like very checklisty. There's a lot. Oh man, like this document, I didn't even, full disclosure, and I'm sure that this shows, I did not actually go through this document before, like, and as a refresher for myself before recording this episode, to vet which parts of this I was really going to cover. So I'm skipping over a whole lot in this reviews section. Basically, I'm going to come back to, because I did cover this earlier. So I mentioned with regards to reviews, you want to ask them 6 times. And if you ask them 0 times, well, if you ask them 1 time, that's like asking them 0 times. And now we're layering in on top of that. Like, you've got your reviews, but then you also want to ask for testimonials because they're worth even more. And you want to ask for referrals because they're worth even more. And so you're thinking, okay, how can I ask for reviews 6 times? And then, since testimonials are even better than that, I need to ask for them at least 6 times, because like 5 wouldn't do that justice. That doesn't make any sense. And then, so that has to be at least 6. And then I need to ask for referrals at least 6 times. So we're up to 18 times here at least. Like that's just, how can I do that, right? Essentially the crux of what the RTR method is if you go to a quote, I think I'm going to explain this really succinctly and possibly better than I did in the document. I don't even know. You should download it and compare. If you go to a quote and you price up like a couple of services that the customer has requested, and let's just say that the total of the job is like $1,800, and they say that it exceeds their budget. And so you have the conversation with them. You're sort of familiar with the context of what they're needing and some of the other concerns that they've had. And you say, okay, like, what is your budget? Like, let me know a price point that you are able to do, and then we can discuss what we can do within that price point. And they say, look, I can do $1,500 and not a penny more, right? Okay. And so then that gives you the opportunity to downsell them. You can say, yeah, okay, no worries. Well, we can actually, like, what I'm hearing from your needs is that this, and this are really important to you, right? So we can cover those with this package over here. This extra thing that's going on over there, like, you don't really need that. That's adding on a bit of value here. And within this, we could like skip this section of the job. Like, just as an example, like, let's say that we're talking about some carpet cleaning involved in that. Let's not worry about your study, your spare bedroom, and the back hallway, because like those areas of the house are not used commonly. So if we get rid of that from the scope of the job, that, and then we're able to bring everything down here, and it's actually only going to cost you, $1,457 now. So it's within budget, and it still pretty much hits all of the needs, right? So what's just happened in that exchange, where you've taken them from something that they were unwilling to pay for, you've been able to bring the price down to a point where it's now within their budget, it hits their needs, and you're able to do it without compromising on your pricing. You've downsold. And it ticks everything, and a deal can be done under those circumstances, right? If everyone is being honest about what's happening there, then, that's it, deal done. This is the same thing. You're going in with the intention of, we want to shoot for a referral. If the person is not, does not have a person to refer in mind, or if they don't seem thrilled about the idea of trying to think of people to refer to, because, some will, some won't, so what? Some people are just the type of person to refer, and other people are not that person. So we've got all of that going on. If they don't seem like that's going to happen, then you downsell to a testimonial. And then if the testimonial doesn't seem like that's going to happen, then you downsell to a review. And the document covers some ideas on how to structure that in, and you can get creative and find a way that works for you and crucially for your team. You want to involve your team when building this out, because they need to be able to do it. So you want to make sure that this is something that the people on the ground really understand at a deep level. They see how it impacts the business. They're incentivized to do the thing, and that they understand that it's really, it's a part of their job role to do the thing. It's not an optional, whatever. Like, you work on it together, you make it this well-structured system, and then it is a part of the job, right? So all of that happens, and then you're entering at a higher point with this ask, this taller order ask of referrals, and then you're downgrading that to testimonial, and you're downgrading that to a review, which means that you're more likely to get all three of those things. And if you play that out over time, over many iterations of the next, 200 jobs that you service, you will get more of all of those things from different customers. So that's essentially the crux of the RTR method. So check out that in the link of the show notes below. I hope that you've enjoyed this sort of rambling, unstructured format. And yeah, if you want to nerd out and have more of a rambling, unstructured format, there'll also be a link below to where you can book a call with me, a free clarity call. The purpose of that is to just get you clarity on the next 2 to 3 dominoes that you need to knock over in your business in alignment with what it is that you're trying to achieve right now. And then maybe from wherever that conversation goes, maybe it'll turn out that, you'd be a good fit for a paid program that I'm running. And maybe we can work together in a more formal way going forward, or maybe not. I don't know. You don't know yet either. So a conversation never hurt anyone. Jump on my calendar, book a chat, and let's just see where it goes. I'm not going to force you to do anything. There's no being held at gunpoint kind of situation going on here. It's literally just a conversation about what you're trying to do in your business right now, what the next things are that are going to get you towards that goal, and if there's anything that I can help with in helping you achieve that faster. And a lot of the time that also just revolves around free resources like this one that are in the show notes below. All right, that's it. Have a great day. Make someone else's day awesome. Catch ya. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Are you sniffing what I'm stepping in? If you're looking for a really valuable community centered around building your business, being really intentional with your spouse and kids, and if you think you can tolerate my terrible dad jokes, then join Family-Oriented Business Growers. It's awesome. There's self-paced challenges designed to help you solve key pain points within your business in short, intentional sprints. There's awesome people in there doing awesome things who have experience with stuff that can help you, having stood where you stand. You'll benefit from what's in there, we'll benefit from having you in there, you legend you, and best of all, it's totally free and also free of toxic shenanigans because we don't tolerate none of that. The mission of the group is to help 250 family-oriented home service business owners reclaim 5 hours per week for what matters most whilst growing their business this year. So jump in there and get amongst it. Join via warplan.au, that's warplan.au. Oh no. He's early. Warplan.au. Catch you in there. Ah!